Good evening, everyone. Before calling this public meeting of Council for July 14th to order, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and it is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. So if we can call this meeting, public meeting of Council to order. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? In respect to myself, in respect to 5A regarding these red line revisions, Bob Shepard acts for James LaPointe Motor Holdings, and I will be declaring a conflict in respect to that one. Seeing no other disclosures, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda of the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favour? That is carried. And at this point, if I could call upon the Deputy Mayor, please.
Let the record show that the mayor has declared a conflict and left the table, left the room. This meeting has been called to consider the application for proposed red line revisions and amendments to conditions of draft approval for subdivision 47T90003, LaPointe Pembroke Developments. Clerk, please report how notice of hearing was given.
Thank you, Chair. So notice was given by regular mail to all owners of property within a 120-meter radius of the subject land, by email to all applicable agencies, and was posted on site on June 5th, 2026.
Thank you. I would ask for the planning report from Owen Hutton, the city planner, regarding this application.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Our applicant, Anthony Homick of JP2G Consultants, Inc., on behalf of the property owners, has submitted an application for red line revisions and amendments to conditions of draft approval for draft approved subdivision 47T90003 in the city of Pembroke. Now, according to Section 5144 of the Planning Act, this allows for the approval authority to amend the conditions of draft approval at any time prior to approval of the final plan of subdivision. Section 5147 goes further in stating that a public meeting is not required if the amendments to the conditions are considered minor. The Planning Department is of the opinion that the proposed red line revisions and amendments to conditions are minor. However, because draft approval was originally received in 1990, it was felt that the public should be given the opportunity to review and comment upon the changes, and as there may be new property owners in the neighborhood of the subdivision since original draft approval was received. The province of Ontario's Bill 185 received royal assent on June 6, 2024, and it made changes to the Planning Act regarding the lapsing of draft plans of subdivision. Known as use it or lose it, for draft plans of subdivision given approval on or before March 27, 1995, a developer must register the plan of subdivision and enter into a subdivision agreement prior to the 6th of June 2027. The use it or lose it applies to this subdivision. Just in summary, this subdivision was formerly known as Vintage Communities, Inc. It is currently known as LaPointe Pembroke Development Subdivision. It received draft approval from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on August 10, 1990, with no expiration date. The subdivision has not moved beyond its draft approval status in the years since. The current property owner wishes for permission to make red line revisions to the plan of subdivision and amend the conditions of draft approval. The proposed red line revisions will ensure that the final plan is better aligned with contemporary planning and engineering practices, and consists of providing all blocks with sufficient road frontage, minor changes to road configuration, and it incorporates a stormwater management block that was not previously contemplated. The proposed amended conditions of draft approval, they generally remove and or update outdated references. They are attached in your agenda package along with a full list of proposed draft conditions. This subdivision, it consists of, just in summary, 471 dwelling units. Of those, 70 will be single detached dwellings. Regarding zoning, the subject lands have a mixture of zoning under Schedule A of Zoning Bylaw 2020-05. This includes R2 Special Exception 18, R4 Special Exception 17, R4 Special Exception 18, Institutional Special Exception 10, and Open Space. These zonings were intended for the previous draft plan of subdivision, and an application to amend these zonings to reflect the proposed red line revisions will be applied for in the future should the red line revisions be approved. The subject lands are designated residential by Schedule A of the Official Plan 2016. This designation encourages the development of neighborhoods containing a variety of housing forms intended to meet a broad range of housing needs. The revised subdivision continues to provide a mix of housing types and densities that are contemplated by the designation. The proposal also supports the goals of the official plan by promoting efficient use of municipal infrastructure, providing opportunities for active transportation, and improving connectivity between adjacent residential neighborhoods. The proposed revisions and amendments are in keeping with the residential designation of the official plan. The addition of a dedicated stormwater management facility improves the overall functionality of the subdivision and better aligns the development with current stormwater management policies contained within the official plan. A traffic brief submitted in support of the application concluded that the surrounding road network is capable of accommodating traffic generated by the development and that nearby intersections are expected to continue operating at acceptable levels of service. The proposed revisions and amendments are in keeping with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024. The subject lands are located within the City of Pembroke settlement area, which is intended to be the focus of growth and development. The proposed subdivision will provide a range and mix of housing options, including low, medium, and high-density residential development. The proposal contributes towards the creation of a complete community by providing housing opportunities for residents at various stages of life and income levels. The subdivision will be serviced fully by municipal water and sanitary sewer services, which is the preferred servicing hierarchy of the province under the current provincial planning statement. An environmental impact study has been completed in support of the development. The study concluded that the proposed subdivision can proceed without significant adverse impacts to identified natural heritage features, provided that the recommended mitigation measures are implemented through the subdivision approval process. A condition of the subdivision agreement will be that the recommendations of the environmental impact study completed by JP2G Consultants dated November 25th, 2025 be fulfilled in full. Therefore, this application is in keeping with the natural heritage policies of the provincial planning statement. So finally, the Planning Department is recommending the approval of the proposed red line revisions and amendments to conditions of draft approval for subdivision 47T90003.
Thank you. Has there been any opposition to the application?
We have received several comments as submissions regarding the application. The first being from the legal representatives of the Renfrew County District School Board. They have two concerns that they have noted. The first being that that they would like for the proposed pathway between lots 71 and 72, that this block be removed from the plan, and that the boundary between the subdivision lands and the school, they state that it will have to be fenced. So that is from the legal representatives of the Renfrew County District School Board. We have received from the township planner of the Township of Laurentian Valley, Lori Armstrong, we've received comments that they would like two conditions be established as a condition of draft approval as they relate to the Pleasant View Municipal Drain. And we have received a comment from Gabriel Kluche of 167 Poplar Ridge Road. It pertains to dead trees on the property. This concern has been passed to the developer, and the developer is amenable to working with the current neighbors to resolve the situation. And finally, Charles Cheeseman of 171 Poplar Ridge Road was present at the Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee to speak to the application.
Thank you. Has there been any support of the application?
Tonight we have Anthony Homick and Michael Faddick of JP2G Consultants here to represent the application.
Excuse me. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. Nice to see everyone again. For the record, my name is Anthony Homick, and I am the Manager of Planning Services and a Senior Planner at JP2G Consultants. As Owen noted, I'm joined by my colleague, Mike Faddick, Senior Civil Engineer also with JP2G. Thank you to Owen for the detailed summary of the application before you this evening. Given the amount of detail that Owen has provided, I will attempt to be as brief as possible in my remarks, and Mike and I would, of course, be pleased to answer any questions the council may have after the fact. As you've heard, this subdivision was draft approved in 1990. At the time, it was not atypical for draft approvals to have no expiration date, and therefore this subdivision was able to sit in its draft approved state for the better part of 40 years now. You heard from Owen about the use it or lose it clause, which affects these older draft approvals. So we have to work to get the subdivision final approved by June of next year. You also heard that in another change to the Planning Act, public meetings are no longer required for plans of subdivision. But in discussions with city staff, we all felt it appropriate to seek renewed public input given the amount of time that has elapsed since the draft approval was first issued. As discussed in our planning justification report that we submitted in support of the application, this red line revision is primarily aimed to bring the 1990 plan into better alignment with contemporary engineering and planning practice. The key driver in the red line is the introduction of a formal stormwater management block, which was never contemplated in the 1990 approval. To accommodate this feature, we've taken two blocks that were previously shown as residential blocks, and we've turned them into one block that is over 2 acres in area that will be home to a stormwater management facility. The three other key changes include, number one, the reduction in size of the previously proposed Central Boulevard to a new street that will meet current city standards when it's constructed. Two, the elimination of the O'Brien Road extension in favor of a connection through the neighboring River Point subdivision that's currently under construction just across the border in Laurentian Valley. On that point, I'm sure you'll all be aware of the infrastructure within that previously shown O'Brien extension, which includes the twin sewer force main and a hydro line that runs right down the middle. So it would be cost prohibitive to relocate and or work within and with these impediments. So instead, the O'Brien extension, save and except for the connection to the River Point subdivision, will be conveyed to the city in fee simple so that it can own and control these lands in perpetuity. And three, we've extended Street B up to the property line behind Riverview Heights to provide access to potential future development on that property at some point in the future. Aside from these changes, the vast majority of the red line revisions are minor tweaks to lot frontages and lot areas. These are provided in Table 3 of our planning justification report. There are very minor changes to lot frontages and depths for these semi-detached lots. And a lot of these changes are actually a result of the level of accuracy with which we can now prepare a draft plan. As you might expect, surveying equipment and AutoCAD drafting is a lot more precise now than it was in 1990. We are not changing any of the uses that are already established in the zoning that applies to the property. And so we're going to leave the zoning in place as it is for at least for now. A couple of other items worth highlighting. I think as Owen mentioned, the full build out of the subject lands is anticipated to result in approximately 472 dwelling units across a mix of dwelling typologies, including detached and semi-detached dwellings, apartment dwellings, and seniors or retirement homes. The first phase of development, which is anticipated to be along the western and northern boundary of the site, would include approximately 83 units in singles and semis. With respect to stormwater management, we have completed a draft detailed design for all municipal services, including stormwater, which is currently with City Public Works staff for review. A formal stormwater management report is forthcoming, and Mike can certainly speak to this better if there are questions specifically about anything engineering related. But suffice it to say, there's only a very small amount of stormwater that will actually be conveyed by a ditch into the city of Pembroke. The vast majority of the stormwater from this property is actually going out the southeast corner of the lands, if you will, into the Pleasant View Municipal Drain into Laurentian Valley. So very little stormwater is actually being conveyed into the city's storm system. With respect to traffic, as Owen mentioned, you'll all be aware that the city and Laurentian Valley recently completed a transportation master plan. And unfortunately, when that plan was prepared, this property was not actually included in the analysis of all the potential future development within the city and Laurentian Valley. So we had the master plan authors rerun their analysis and their model to include this development. And while the master plan does eventually contemplate the need for lights at Duville and McKay, this one development by itself does not require any local intersection improvements. Lastly, worth noting, as Owen also mentioned, that we prepared an environmental impact study in support of the red line revision. The draft approval actually predated the Endangered Species Act, and so there was no contemplation of any sort of environmental study at the time. No species at risk were found, but our biologists did find that there is potential habitat for these species, and therefore the EIS contains a series of recommendations to clear the property for development in as ecologically sound a manner as possible. And as Owen mentioned, the recommendations from the environmental impact study will be included in the subdivision agreement. You also heard that the city received comments from the RCDSB, which we do not object to, and we can accommodate by a very minor modification to the plan and in the subdivision agreement. You heard about the comments received from the Township of Laurentian Valley. We don't have any material objections to those comments, but we do want to meet with planning staff and with Lori Armstrong just to discuss timing. As you know, we're on the clock for the use it or lose it, and so we just need to ensure that we can come up with a satisfactory solution that works within that time frame. Lastly, you heard we received comments from a couple of neighbors. One who's expressed some comments about the dead trees, and we are going to reach out to Mr. Cloutier in the next couple of days, and we'll set up a site visit to go and meet with him to talk about those trees that he feels are a danger to his property, and we'll work with him to address them. And you also heard about Mr. Cheeseman, and some of you heard from Mr. Cheeseman a couple of weeks ago. He had a lot of questions and a lot of comments, but I think that between Mike and myself and Colleen and Owen, I think we've addressed most, if not all, of his concerns. So just to wrap up, we're of the opinion, in agreement with city staff, that the changes we are proposing constitute minor amendments that can proceed by way of a red line revision rather than a whole new application. And at this point, we'd be pleased to answer any questions or to elaborate on anything that I've mentioned. Thank you.
Mr. Hutton?
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor. We do have a member of the public here who wishes to speak to the application.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome. Please state your name and your address, and then you can go ahead and speak. Thank you.
I know nothing about planning details and research and wet bogs and things, but I am a resident of Dieuville in the sub-cul-de-sac.
And your name was?
Dr. Rosemary Gilbert. I've
Okay.
lived here for 40 years.
Oh, yes. Hello, Dr. Gilbert.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've lived here 40 years. We moved in to Dieuville after building the last house in that little area in 2017, moved in 2018. Now, I suppose none of you live in that area. What we have in that little subdivision is, when we first came, we were able to settle with the city very kindly. They made everything residential on their side up to the curb because it was industrial, and we were worried about things could be built. They were very kind, changed it. Nothing happened to our quiet residential area until we heard about this. May I just point out that the residents got no letter to say that this was under discussion or proposed. The notice at the end of the cul-de-sac is on the track that people who don't live on that road occupy with their horses, their dogs, and their running. And it was so small that even with our glasses standing up against it, we could hardly see. So just to mention, if you're doing this kind of thing, it would be appreciated that local residents were given the opportunity to understand. Because I don't suppose any of you live in that road. We've lived there since 2018. It's peaceful. It's a cul-de-sac, and it's full of older people. There's one house that has children in it, and that area was as we know, not occupied, and the track didn't go very far. Suddenly, there's a big residential area going in the field, as I call it, just on the way down Campbell Drive, which has made a bit more foot traffic. But what is really worrying me is that was a 1990 plan that you're going to build on and put 4 red lines on. We're living 36 years later, and in that time, that whole bush was built on by residential homes, big homes. Mr. Cheeseman's home is a big home. Now his backyard is facing that development with 470 homes. So I think it needs to be really looked at through what people have paid for, are living in retirement, suddenly to have 470 homes of questionable, that's duplex or single homes. That's not like the homes, let's say, in the two side roads, which Mr. Cheeseman lives at the end. And he has a delightful house. It's now up for sale, by the way, I noticed the other day. So what's not been considered is that 2026 is not 1990, and to put 400 and something homes in there, which would be the lower kind of home, just because you're going to put that many in that area, is a bit of a hardship to people who have paid. I know New Exchange recently, it went for 800,000 one house. And now they're going to be living with duplexes and roads. That road will be opened up, and it will either go through the residential buildings that are being made or turn around and go alongside Fellows. But it's a through road. We all know who live there. It's a through road from Highway 17, Highway 41, come down, turn up Newville. You can get right down to Home Depot then without having to go near town. And my last question is, I don't know much about the society of Pembroke, but I do know there doesn't seem to have been any new industry. So why are we expecting so many more people? And if they are immigrants, bless their hearts, they won't be affording the big houses that exist there. So we just live in an ordinary house, but we're proud of it, and it's quiet. But the houses on the next road to us are enormous. Most of them are on 1.5 lots. And those people living there aren't going to be very grateful for 470 single double homes just at their backyard without consideration on a plan that was that many years ago and is just being modified by 4 lines, whatever the lines are. But I looked at the first line, was right through the back of where Cheeseman's house is. We're fortunately at the near end of the cul-de-sac. There are only 8 houses in it, and we will be downvalued. And where are the people coming who can buy those? And where is the industry coming that can employ them? So I've just those questions, which are social questions, but are also personal questions of those of us who live there. Please think about what's happening, especially with the big area that's being put in already down a bit lower behind the mall. I haven't got much else to say, but it's the personal experience we have of sadness that we're losing this quiet, peaceful, retired people who, not us, but some people are retired with quite an income. And it's their home and living in town. It's near the hospital of those who care. It's been chosen wisely. And now nobody would choose it if we were given it. So please, I know it's going to come, but please think about what's being allowed to put in. Because you don't want to spoil all Spruce and, I forget the names when they get a little bit anxious, but right round to Catherine, Elizabeth, through to the Park, Harvey Fraser Park, those are all superior quality homes. And that's not going to be superior quality, that's going to be a residential area. And it's not the snobbery, it's just a choice. If I can just say that, please.
Yes, well, we thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hudd, was anybody else present wanted to speak?
No, Deputy Mayor, that is it.
Okay. So I would ask for a report from the Chair of the Planning and Development Committee of Council regarding the Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee comments for this application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and participants tonight, Mr. Homick and Ms. Gilbert. Appreciate your comments. When this came before the advisory committee, there were a number of questions that were asked. Some of them were similar to your vein. Is this the right type of development? Why is it taking so long? But as you're all aware, the province of Ontario today is endeavoring to have more growth quickly. And perhaps under that mandate, they don't always look at the circumstances of individuals such as yourselves that have lived in an area, such elegance and quiet, and you're very fortunate. But they determined that there will be building across the province. One of your questions, if I may address them while you're here, was where are the people coming from? If you look at the retail sales and housing in the Pembroke area, I would say probably 70% of them are not from Pembroke. They're from outside of the area. They're from Toronto, Milton, Mississauga, Georgetown, Windsor. They're coming from southern parts of the province where they will come here and find that housing prices are more attainable. So they can sell their home for maybe $2-3 million bucks. If I can say bucks, I mean dollars. Put $2 million in the bank, buy a nice home, and retire. So that's the goal, I think, of a lot of people that are trying to come to this wonderful area that we have, the waterfront, the serenity of a small town environment, and people seek that. But certainly, asking us to consider those points, I think maybe mute to the fact that the province is saying to us, and we really don't have a choice, saying you shall endeavor to develop more quickly. And as you said earlier, Mr. You were talking about the relevance or the irrelevance of even having a public meeting in some of these instances. Isn't that correct? So the province is saying, we'll leave it to the municipality, you follow our mandate, go, and that's it. To me, it sounds like they don't want to hear what people have to say. That's the way I take that. I don't think that's considerate, but I think they want to see the expansion of housing. Canada is still a large country. We could probably put the population of the world, in our country. I really think from a geographical standpoint. But I do agree with you to a certain extent that, there's got to be some consideration to those folks that have been living there for a long time. The place where I live, is not as beautiful as, my home is beautiful to me and my wife. We live in the West End of Pembroke. But where our house was, 50 years ago was farmland. There were no houses. Now there's malls beyond that. There's, it just keeps expanding. So it's difficult to contain growth. But I think if you have growth, you have to look at it from the standpoint of having that growth looked at very carefully and to consider, the people that live in and around there. As far as not receiving notice was there any notice given to the residents?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes. So even though, as I noted, this public meeting and notice was not technically required under the Planning Act, we did follow the standard notification procedure under the Planning Act for plans of subdivision, which is that property owners within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands receive notice. Doctors Gilbert are outside of that radius.
7 houses down, shows you the size of the houses.
The question was asked, where are all these people coming from? Where's the industry? Our industry is CNL and CFP Petawawa. And when you look at the growth statistics at CNL the last year or two, they've gone from probably 2,800 individuals to 4,000 people. So there's a large growth there, and that's what's driving that. So, what you're going to get, I believe, are professional people with high incomes that are knowledgeable, that come here from all over the world, to settle in this area. So, to perhaps deny them the opportunity to have a home in that area, I think would be sort of unkind. We have to open it up for everybody, and we have to try and consider everybody's needs. The committee itself approved it in principle, and as I said, I'm not trying to pass the buck on to the province of Ontario, but they've made it very difficult for small municipalities to do their job. At one time, we had more, more of a local control. Now it's sort of a, how would I put it? Sign the document and away you go, and you really don't have a say about this. So, if you have issue with that, and I mean, I would say that you talk to your member of parliament, your provincial member of parliament, and that's where those mandates come from. We're the child of the province, and we have to obey the parent.
Could I just say, we're not trying to change this.
I understand
We're
that.
just trying to express that there is going to be a big, I think the people with lots of money who come to retire here would not live in that new development. So that would be just what I wouldn't do.
Okay.
Because it will, so I just wanted to,
I understand that.
See-
I can't judge, who will be living there, or, and as he said, there were 74 individual detached homes, I believe, and the rest may be,
470.
no, but there will be 74 homes that are actual homes. The rest will be a mixture of, semis, detached, maybe triplexes, and that's what the province of Ontario wants. They don't want people on a 4-acre lot building one home. On that 4-acre lot, they want perhaps 5 homes. That is the mandate of the province of Ontario. And I mean, I'm not making that up. We face that on a daily basis, and Councillor Kale is the vice chair. Maybe you'd like to comment on it as well. But we have to follow their mandate. But I truly appreciate how you feel. And I think, I know that our member of provincial parliament monitors these meetings. He listens. So I'm sure he'll take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giacono. Do we have any questions from council? Councillor Frenier.
Thank you. Yeah, it's unfortunate that this sat there that long. I don't know exactly when those homes were built in Poplar Ridge and along Dieuville, but I'd be hard pressed to say they weren't there in 1990. I don't think they were, which is unfortunate.
Ours was 2018, and that was
Yeah.
the most in
But I guess my comments are, I'm supporting development. However, I know in the past sometimes when we were having properties butt up to other properties, we requested that there be a tree buffer or something of that nature between that development and the next development. I know I live on Elgin Street, and when we first talked about Gulf View, I felt the same way. Right now, my backyard is a forest. And when I heard that, how many years ago, I thought, 18 years ago, I thought, oh, I'm going to lose that nice forest scenery in the backyard. It still hasn't happened. But there is a buffer zone, quite a wide buffer zone between the built-up homes on Elgin Street and Gulfview. So we were happy about that. It hasn't even happened yet. I may not see it in my lifetime. But I'm just saying that maybe sometimes when we get past this stage and we're working with the developer, we can request certain things on the built-up side. And I'm just looking, and it would probably affect the backyards of those individuals on the east side of Poplar, along that boundary. And then there's, look, for sure, one property on Dieuville. But anyway, I'm just saying, sometimes we can work with the developer, and I can't guarantee anything, but I understand. It's just unfortunate this didn't happen before Poplar Ridge developed in Dieuville. So that's...
Mr. Owen, Mr. Cheeseman had a question about the buffer zone. Did you want to comment on it?
He did not, but I can let Mr. Homick and Mr. Faddick comment on a tree buffer zone.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, in theory, a tree buffer zone could be considered. However, in this instance, so I guess maybe to 10,000 feet, we do have an existing draft approval from 1990. So there is an approval for development. Development has long been contemplated in the official plan and zoning bylaw for this property. I understand it's sat, but it's draft approved. So we set about trying to make some minor tweaks, as we've indicated, minor revisions to that existing approved plan. So we haven't actually changed in any material sense those lots that abut Poplar Ridge. And what we are having to do for stormwater management is build a ditch along the rear of those lots that butt up against Mr. Cheeseman's house. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Either you get the tree buffer, or one of the comments that Mr. Cheeseman had expressed was about stormwater. And there is an existing ditch that runs behind those lots where Mr. Cheeseman lives and the lots that are on the west side of this property line. And we can't put our stormwater into that ditch, or rather, those neighbors don't want us to put the stormwater in that ditch. So we have to build a ditch right beside it to convey that water off the property to manage stormwater appropriately. And we can't do both. We can't have a tree buffer and we can't have a ditch to accommodate stormwater management. So, and I think, quite honestly, the tree buffer in that location isn't necessarily going to satisfy the concerns of the residents who we're hearing from this evening.
Like I said, it's unfortunate. Back then, we didn't have that expiry. Like now, we look at developments, and if they haven't developed in so long, we can go back. Had that come here when we were building when the Poplar Ridge neighborhood was being constructed, maybe we could look at it then and say, you know, well, you need to move that east, you know. So it's unfortunate, the timing on this. There's reasons legislation has changed our ability to say, okay, you've been sitting on that land far too long. But that being said, he's still going to develop, which is great for the city and it's great for the taxpayers. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Keel?
So with respect to the school board's concerns, are those taken into account in this draft?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, no, the current draft plan doesn't necessarily contemplate the comments from the school board. So there were two comments from the school board. You heard that the original draft plan did contemplate a pedestrian connection to the school site. I guess it made sense at the time. The school board doesn't want that anymore, so we just have to make a very subtle tweak to the table on the draft plan that removes the word pedestrian connection to that to the school property. It will remain as a drainage easement because the school board is draining water onto Mr. Lapointe's property. So there's been some discussions with the school board about how legal that is or not, but we are designing the subdivision to accommodate and accept all of the stormwater that's currently flowing on the property from the school board. And then the second comment from the school board was about fencing along that entire boundary between the subdivision and the school lands. And while yes, that's expensive, we don't object to that, and that would just be wrapped up in the subdivision agreement as something that Mr. Or whoever ends up building these lots would end up having to include at that along that property line.
Okay, because to be clear, I don't actually care about those two issues, which I think I said at the planning committee. It's nice that the school board engaged us, but quite frankly, on those two issues, they can fly a kite as far as I'm concerned. The LV one, I don't think we had that at the planning meeting, did we? Because I don't remember seeing that. So they have two questions. One is the storm management question, which I think you already answered. The second one is the requirement to put language into future agreement of purchase and sales. Do we have to do that? Because I got to tell you, from a real estate lawyer perspective, nobody does that. Because a realtor never looks at an agreement of purchase and sale, or never looks at a plan of subdivision before selling a house. And that has the potential of giving outs to real estate participants when they suddenly find it later and they want out of the deal and they say this was supposed to be included in the agreement of purchase and sale, which no realtor knows, ever. This reminds me a lot of one deal that I had when the county, for no reason that I can understand, was on a kick that was putting restrictive covenants on properties, saying that you have to put in the agreement of purchase and sale that this is beside a farm, as if the purchaser couldn't see across the road that it's beside a farm. So that one I'm actually deeply opposed to, because nobody sees that before you do an agreement of purchase and sale. So I'm just wondering when that would, I'm assuming that would come in at the time of the subdivision agreement, but I don't care about their other one. There's obviously storm management needs to be dealt with, and we, certainly we want to be good neighbors. We're obviously dealing right now with their own subdivision, but that one I vehemently oppose.
Mr. Olmec?
Thank you, through the deputy mayor. I'm not a lawyer. Don't pretend to be a lawyer, or maybe sometimes I do. But I think that the clause that that requires these warnings or requirements to find their way in both the subdivision agreement and agreements of purchase and sale protect both the developer and the city, so that if somebody's, as you maybe suggest, somebody tries to break a deal because they didn't know this, they didn't read their subdivision agreement, at least they can't come back to the city and say, you should have known. Well, the city can say, no, it's right here. This should have been in your agreement of purchase and sale. So I kind of dabbling in a little bit of my legal thoughts just from my years of experience in subdivisions and other complex development applications. But and it's fairly standard in every subdivision that I've ever worked on, that a lot of these clauses are sort of doubled up in both the subdivision agreement and required in agreements of purchase and sale. So I just thought I'd offer that.
So if it finds its way into the subdivision agreement, I will vote against it. So I will not support that under any circumstance. Otherwise, I mean, we know we need development. We have a housing shortage, including in this area. Councillor Jacquino didn't mention it, but I think we're expecting close to 1,000 new military people with the base expansion, which is only going to put pressure on everybody, not just Petawawa, but the entire surrounding area. I mean, I don't know. I hear what the neighbors are saying. Certainly, I don't. I found out just a couple months ago that a 3-story old red brick building beside my house is going to be replaced with I don't even remember how large apartment building. Did that cause me a moment to pause? Well, of course it did. I'm gonna lose my visual of the beer store. But at the end of the day, I guess listening to you and trying to process this in my mind, as we all do when we're sitting here, we all knew this was going to be developed at some point in time, as far back as the 1990s. I know you're shaking your head, but this agreement this draft approval has been registered on title since the 1990s. So everybody knew this was going to happen, just like Councillor Lafreniere just alluded to, the Gulfview subdivision. It's not built yet. It's sitting out past the OPP station. It's a giant forest, but it's going to be developed, I hope, someday. So I mean, it does, I guess, raise the question that if you're purchasing beside a very large forested area, I think everybody needs to appreciate that there might be plans for that area, especially if you're in an urban center. I mean, there's only so much land. I think everyone around this table this term at some point has pointed out that Pembroke's landlocked. We're running out of space to put things in the city of Pembroke. But I also would suggest, and the one great thing about being in the city of Pembroke is a lot of our stuff goes through JP2G, and I think he's hearing that some of us do have these concerns, and the next time he's doing a new something or other, it's nice that our local developers are using one of our local businesses. So you probably don't get that in a big city. So I expect that this is likely to go forward, and I certainly, as Councillor Lafreniere said, I'm pro-development. We need more houses. We have young families that can't afford houses, largely because it's supply and demand, right? If you don't have enough houses, people are willing to pay more money for something that if there were 50 houses on the market, they would never get the price for. So I am a believer in the economic issue that we need more houses in this area to both bring down, to allow for more rental units. Frankly, I'm looking forward to the day that somebody comes to us with shovels in the ground for apartment complexes, because we probably need those even more than we need houses. So I mean, generally speaking, I support this. There's obviously some things I take issue with, but we need housing. The province knows we need housing. The federal government, which has constitutionally nothing to do with housing, is even stepping up its game in terms of trying to promote and provide incentives for housing. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that area is certainly going to get built up from your neighborhood through to the back of Home Depot and whatnot. But you know, the city, I hope, and I know Director Sorial is always willing to meet with people, and sometimes there's other things we can do. Sometimes operations can tweak how roadways are for traffic calming measures and stuff. The mayor's not here, but he and I were just at the road, I don't know, that roads thing up in Petawawa and Aors, and one of the things we were looking at was traffic calming measures. So there are other ways to deal with things, and I think you heard from Mr. Homick that, you know, they're certainly open to hearing people out, and that's why I enjoy this municipal working relationship with JP2G. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from council? Seeing none. If you wish to be notified of council's decision, please contact Owen Hutton at City Hall. I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? This public meeting is now adjourned. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our combined committee of Pembroke City Council for Tuesday, July 14th. Would like to call the meeting to order. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof? Seeing none. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? By Councillor Keel, second Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? Carried. We have a bunch of minutes to approve. Planning and Development Committee, June 2nd, 2026. Moved by Councillor Keel, second Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? Carried. Finance and Administration Committee, June 2nd. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? Carried. Parks and Recreation Committee, March 17th. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Carried. Operations Committee, June 16th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Carried. Striking Committee, March 3rd, 2026. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded Councillor Giacono. Those in favor? Carried. We have no any business from the minutes. Seeing none. Presentations and delegations. We don't have any tonight. New business. Item A, 2027 budget timelines. Welcome, Treasurer Lochte. The floor is yours.
Thank you and good evening. So a draft budget schedule is presented tonight for discussion, and it's recommended that combined committee approve and adopt the 2027 budget schedule pending the municipal election as presented, although the next term of council and mayor may amend these dates following the election. So the draft budget schedule is being presented tonight as it is needed for planning purposes, as the staff budget process typically begins in August each summer, with the staff portion concluding usually around mid-November, and then we kind of roll it over to council and go through that process. So there was a discussion last year regarding if there's a benefit to delaying the budget schedule for council training, and it was suggested that one-on-one training be offered to any new members of council before the actual budget presentation dates to answer questions one-on-one. So this is something that would be offered to any new members of council in the next term. The other change that's been done to our typical schedule is that we have moved public budget consultation earlier than previous budget exercises. So with the election this year, it does make it a bit complicated, but we have planned to conduct a budget survey in the September-October timeframe following the asset management plan and a draft long-term financial plan, which under the schedule would be presented to council at the December 1st regular council meeting. This could be turned into a public meeting if it was so desired, and with an opportunity for public members to attend and speak on December 1st if council so wishes. The rules under the strong mayor has been incorporated into the schedule, as well as the inaugural meeting of council, which is to take place on November 17th. So under the schedule, the staff portion of gathering the information would be complete on November 13th. Local boards would submit their budgets to the treasurer on November 6th. The new mayor would have about 2 weeks to review the staff prepared budget, propose any changes, and then the head of council would propose a budget, which is the day one of strong mayor budget timelines, December 4th. Department heads could then review this draft budget with their chairs and vice chairs, and we would have our 2 days of deliberations on December 14th and December 16th. I would present the tax impact of whatever is to come out of those 2 days of deliberations on January 5th. The mayoral veto period would be the 10-day period from January 7th to the 16th. If there was any mayoral vetoes, they could be discussed on January 26th. And then the budget would pass either on the 17th if there was no vetoes, or February 1st under the strong mayor timelines. And the typical bylaws that we pass related to the budget would come to council for adoption on February 2nd. Unless there was some last minute changes on day 3, and then it would come to the council meeting after that. So that's the schedule as it is proposed, so I'll pass it back to the chair. Thank you.
Do we have questions or comments? Councillor Keel?
So I do think, and I think I would like a public meeting wrapped into the December, sorry, was it December 1st, Madam Treasurer? So I think maybe we could, similar to what we did tonight, we could have the public meeting starting at 6 and then roll into our regular stuff. I do think that's important. This council, of course, will remember a couple of years ago, our public meeting, I think, did directly lead to changes in the pool situation. That was the one we had at Travel Lodge. This year, we did have, I think, 2 or 3 people attended the public meeting that we had this year. So I think any opportunity we can give to the public to chime in is important. Mostly, I'm very thankful that we're doing the survey well in advance, so we'll actually have those results when we're sitting down at the beginning. But I do think that public meeting is important, and I think it could, I think it very well could be on that December 1st shared date with our normal council stuff. The only question I have is, so we're still meeting as the Finance Committee on the 14th and 16th? And then January 5th, normal council day, that's when we're passing like a consolidated resolution like we did this year. I don't see that in the timeline because the strong mayor's power does require council and not committee to pass resolutions. And I think you and I had this discussion too late last year. So I'm just wondering, like, are we going to meet as finance committee, or are we just going to have 2 special council meetings, which would have the same effect? And then we don't have to, have a council meeting to pass a consolidated resolution. Council in the special budget meetings would have just done it themselves. So that's my only other question. But Madam Treasurer, this is, I know last year we were all kind of thrown into it with the new strong mayor powers and that, but to say that we've all learned a lot after that first thing, this is an absolutely fantastic schedule. I love everything I see, more so on this schedule. Others wouldn't be aware, but I had some more critical comments to the treasurer, and then we all realized that the 2026 schedule was attached instead of the 2027 one. So if some members around the table are like, Ian, I thought you were more critical, that all got wiped away when the treasurer provided this year's schedule, which looks great. So just my one question then, I guess, I guess I would suggest to council, committee, I guess I would suggest to committee that we do have the public budget meeting on the 1st, and then the question about whether it's finance committee or council and special meeting to deal with the budget resolutions.
So through the chair, so no problem adding the public meeting December 1st. So at January 5th, I was thinking that I would have just the tax part of it. So it's the ratios discussion and the schedule that has all of the impacts together, with the water sewer rates and the tax rates, and have all of that calculated to be presented at the January 5th. So that could be one last kick at the can, as it were. Certainly now that you mention it, I believe we just did one big resolution with all of the changes for council, but we could turn the day 1, day 2 to a special council meeting, and that would avoid all of that extra paperwork step. So that's not an issue as well.
Thank you, Councillor Keel. Mayor Gervais.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Couldn't agree more with Councillor Keel in respect to engagement of the public in terms of the some sort of public consultation and so forth. My only one concern is that in step 5, public budget consultation survey results to be presented at December 1st, but yet in step 10, the mayor is supposed to review the staff prepared budget and propose budget changes, but would it not help the mayor to know what the public budget consultation survey results were to help guide the mayor in terms of what that role is on step 10? So that would be my only my only thing, but otherwise couldn't agree more with Councillor Keel in respect to engaging the public. It's just that if the, I'm not even going to go there in terms of what's set in place, but if in step 10 that's what's supposed to happen, well, then the mayor should be guided by it, because otherwise December 1st, which is like a week after step 10, anyways, that would be my only thought.
So through the chair, so the results of the survey will be available prior to December 1st, so that could be shared with the mayor and circulated as information to
Thank you.
council before presentation.
Councillor Frenier.
So just a suggestion, and nothing, has to be done, but we could see a huge turnover around this, in this, environment next year after the election. And historically, like back before this council, we used to have budgets at the end of January, which gave the new council a couple of months to get here, to familiarize themselves with the system, to give some time to maybe review previous budgets, to have a look at the coming budgets. This schedule, although it serves us really well once you're educated in the business of city, the new councillors are going to come in and it's going to be a whirlwind. And I'm just wondering, the treasurer alluded to the fact that she would offer if they wanted. I would suggest that it be almost a compulsory training, just for the better, better for everyone. Are you going to get people arguing at budget? And we know what it's like every new term. I just think it'd be advantageous for the new candidates that are going to be here and staff that has to work with them later on when you actually are grinding through the budget. So I'm looking at the dates as well, and I know, and you said inauguration was November 17th. I mean, even if you said there is a compulsory training, budget training process where everyone will get a look at November 24th, draft budgets, make your notes, get a copy or whatever you want to do. But I really think it's important for the residents of the city too, to make sure that the new councillors are going to understand what they can do and what they maybe can't do. So I would really, I don't know what other members that may be here think of that, but I think it's time we starting our new councillors off on the right foot and not saying if you want to. This is part of being a councillor, and this is your training, just like any job. You're going to be trained, and you're going to be told what you can do and what you can't do. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Councillor Keel, then
So maybe I'll just piggyback a little bit on that, because I know Councillor Purcell and I have been having a lot of conversations with Victoria and Dave, and I don't want to speak for them, but I didn't see them put their hand up either. I do think there is some thought of starting new councillor training prior to the swearing in, unlike prior times. Right. So there is, there's a whole month, I guess, a month and half a week. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if either one of them wanted to speak to that, but I believe that's what's in the works, is to, after Election Day, to get on the councillor training a bit quicker. Even though they're not sworn in, we know they're going to be. So I don't know if,
So through you, Chair, yes, that's correct, Councillor Keel. We're strategizing on that, and we've heard from previous council, and I did a larger survey in Renfrew County, and that kind of resounded loud and clear. So the CAO and myself are working on that. Just again, relationship building, best step forward, understanding it's very overwhelming, and we're taking note as all of these things are being discussed. So yeah, it will be incorporated as soon as possible.
Madam Treasurer.
So I guess my question is to the clerk and the CAO is, can we compel training? Like, do we have the authority to require it? Because that was where I had said at their...
So through you, Chair, excellent question. We unfortunately cannot. However, in understanding training that's integral to your role, again, we cannot make anything compulsory, but we can highlight the significance and the importance of the information being shared and how it will be conducive to their role.
So do we have a motion to accept? You go ahead.
So with the one change requested by the mayor and the committee being instead a special council meeting and the addition of the public meeting on December 1st, I think those are all the changes looking around the table. I would then move that we accept the timeline as presented with those three changes.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Mayor Gervais? Okay, any more discussion on the motion? Those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Have a good evening. Next, we have Clerk Charbonneau with two items. The first one is use of corporate resources for election purposes, policy update. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. So the use of corporate resources policy, as you may recall, was presented previously, and we had discussed some important updates that needed to be looked at just due to some emerging case law that had come out regarding the Armstrong versus Township of Russell case. So through that, and just as a reminder, under Section 88.18 of the Municipal Elections Act, the city is legally mandated to establish these rules, and this is to govern the use of municipal resources during the election campaign period, which we are currently in. Staff did review the Ontario Superior Court of Justice decision and regarding the timeline restrictions placed on election signs, predominantly some other free speech and prohibitive blanket statements that were in the policy had also come to light upon review. So committee will realize, and anyone who has viewed the package online, that there were some red line changes made to the policy. Since the policy had gone out in its draft form for committee review, I did take a look at it and had some further discussion with other members of council, or committee, sorry, which I am grateful for, and we've made additional changes, just again, in thinking about, you know, the case law that has been put down, which is transformative for policies such as this. So I'd just like to highlight some of the changes that we have made. Now, I have provided each and every one of you with an additional red line copy. There are some highlights where the additional new provisions have been recommended. And I will then also update the package online. They have come, yeah, it will be updated online, so it is the new amended copy. So again, it's mostly, the changes are really looking at protecting free speech and political expression. So the statement was added to the purpose section, and it explicitly directs that while the policy restricts uses of corporate resources, it has to be interpreted to respect and protect political expression and maintain a standard access to political or to facilities. And there was also a new definition for passive campaigning included. So this definition is integral because it will feed into a lot of the updated changes. So this is being proposed as introducing it to protect the non-disruptive displays of personal affiliation, such as wearing campaign buttons, apparel, or parking signed vehicles in a municipal lot. We were advised by our legal representative that free speech versus what we interpret public safety according to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, we could be opening up ourselves to liability if we're going to be including in our policy prohibitive blanket statements saying you can't do this, you can't wear a button. Someone from the public who is a free person essentially could do that, and are we really going to stop them from coming to Canada Day because they have a button on their shirt? It is considered, per our legal opinion, free speech, and we have to be very, very careful where we as a municipality limit that. Also, there is relaxed outdoor space access and targeted indoor bans. So administrative space and public space, there's a distinction here. Administrative space would be, for example, council chambers, campaigning activities in council chambers, city hall, can't happen because we as a municipality have to maintain our political neutrality, very important to staff and myself as clerk. However, public spaces that can be accessed passively, again, for example, if a candidate was at a Canada Day event, someone from the public comes up to them, I know you're running, can we chat about your campaign? It's considered passive campaigning, therefore allowed. Again, leading back to these decisions that have been made with the Armstrong case, they've opened up a lot of precedent for the free speech and what we define as that and where we limit it. And voter access protections, again, the statement in section 10 was built out even a little bit more to provide clear boundaries were added to ensure voters can enter and exit polling stations freely without encountering active campaigning. This was always in place. It is built out a little bit more just to clarify and justify that. And again, I know in the past, it's come to my attention, there was some vehicles with stickers or magnets or such on it with campaign material. Again, leading back to where we define passive use of a facility, passive campaigning. If a candidate is, for example, using a facility that's a recreation facility, they have their car wrapped, they're allowed to passively access that campaign or that recreation facility without being considered that their car is being used as a tool for campaigning. Again, this does come from looking at the case law, what was said in the decision, and trying to mitigate liability for the municipality as best as possible. And we built out, again, some permitted use of official municipal contact info. There was prohibitive statements on this saying you absolutely could not, state anything to do with the municipality in any of your campaign materials. This is now being built out to say explicitly that candidates and third parties are now allowed to reference the official municipal address, email, telephone number of the clerk's office or polling locations on their campaign materials. It's strictly for information purposes. It's not in any way condoning the municipality polling stations are attached to the material. It's just informing. And another big thing, and the whole kind of purpose that spurred on the Armstrong versus Township of Russell, was election signs. So previously, City of Pembroke and multiple other municipalities within Renfrew County, as I'm sure everyone is aware who's run a municipal campaign before, were prohibited from putting up their campaign signs prior to nomination day, which this year is August 21st. You could not do that. You could only do it after nomination day had passed. So the whole premise of this case was signs went up ahead of time, municipality took it down, charged because there was a set fee. It was argued, the decision was rendered that free speech was being limited, therefore the municipality unjustly removed the signs, which has spurred on a number of changes. So keeping in line with that decision and to limit liability, now candidates, as soon as they file their nominations officially, that means you come into the clerk, hand in your Form 1 and 2, pay your nomination fee, you are considered officially nominated, not officially signed off on by myself, but technically, per the new policy and per the case law precedent that's been set, you can put up your signs. So that was the big thing that the case did change. Now, just because you can doesn't mean you have to. There should be thought put towards how expensive signs are. They get damaged over time. It's up to now, though, the candidate, right? Once you officially register yourself and pay the fee, you are free to start putting up signs on permitted property following the appropriate sign bylaws, of course. And I'm just trying to take a look through any of the other changes, but again, mainly I've highlighted the administrative spaces are off the resource list for candidates to use for campaign purposes, but we've opened up those outdoor spaces to allow for that passive campaigning, built out the scope, active versus passive campaigning. There's some semantics in there that are also highlighted for your review and consideration. But other than that, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I am happy to answer any questions or consider any further changes. And I will note that the corporate policy or corporate resources for election purposes policy is outstanding currently, and it is a priority to get passed as soon as possible. But again, considering the new legislation that's come through, I do appreciate committee's patience with this while we try to build it out and get it as tight as possible with this new legislation.
Thank you very much for that. Very important. Questions, comments, Councillor Keel.
I just want to thank you, Madam Clerk, for pivoting on that one as you did. Obviously, the mayor and I know as lawyers that decisions come down, and all of a sudden it can change things in a hurry when a judge makes one decision in one part of Ontario or Canada, and all of a sudden everybody else needs to follow. I have looked at other municipal examples, and as I was just saying to you earlier, you know, these things do need to change. I was looking at the Ottawa election-related resource policy, and theirs was first approved in 2013, changed in 2022, changed in 2023, changed in 2025. So, you know, when people are wondering, you know, what are our staff doing, there's a lot of work keeping up with the municipality, and certainly a lot of work keeping up with changing laws and requirements and expectations. So I just want to thank you for all of your work on this. In addition to being our clerk, you're also running our election this year, so that's just an added job. And for you to be able to pivot and look at all these changes and meet with our lawyer and do all that stuff, you know, kudos for you for fitting that into your already busy schedule. And I would have no problem moving a motion that combined committee endorse and recommend council approve, as presented, the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy.
Do we have a seconder? Sorry for that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I do appreciate those words, Councillor Keel. And just to note, the bylaw is coming for consideration to council this evening, just due to the time sensitivity of it. What I will do is update, obviously, the attachment Appendix A with the changes if committee is in favor of all of them.
Right. So my mic was turned off, so Councillor Keel made the motion and Councillor Purcell seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, those in favor? Motion carried. Next item, last item of the evening, Joint Election Compliance Audit Committee, 2026 to 2030.
Thank you, Chair. It is an elections themed evening for myself. So last report of the evening, and I will do my best to keep this succinct. So in short, the Joint Compliance Audit Committee is our independent referee for municipal election finances. Instead of the city managing these sensitive matters internally, we partner with neighboring municipalities to form a shared objective committee of outside experts. It's comprised of individuals with accounting backgrounds, legal backgrounds, also extensive municipal experience. So the whole point and purpose of this joint audit committee is that if a member of the public suspects a candidate or third-party advertiser has violated the campaign contribution or spending limits, this joint committee steps in to review the complaint, order an audit if it's justified, and decide if legal action is necessary. So there is a proven partnership established, and staff recommend continuing this successful joint model, and we did use this in 2022 to 2026 for this current term. It's proven to work well, and the strategic benefit of this partnership is that it aligns with our strategic plan to build out and support our existing partnerships, and it also, should an audit be called that City of Pembroke has to pay for, it just helps us draw on experience from multitude of individuals. And for this term, in working with the partnership municipalities, we are presenting the names of Rick Eustace, Jim LeBeau, Les Scott, and Kent Tubman Kent Tubman. And essentially, these individuals were reached out to because of their experience. We've got some accountants, former municipal mayor who's very knowledgeable in the field of municipalities, and other respected individuals with extensive knowledge in this regard. And the timeline for this committee, the term of office, it runs the entire term of council, so it would be from November 15th, 2026 to November 14th, 2030. And if endorsed, the formal establishing bylaw will be brought forward August 11th. We don't have to have it formed until October 1st, but the partner municipalities were ready to go, and our attached terms of reference are for your review as well. And I'm happy to entertain any questions, should there be some.
Questions, comments, motions? Councillor Keel.
I move that the combined committee endorse and recommend to council approval of the Joint Election Compliance Audit Committee terms of reference as attached for the 2026-2030 term of office to support the city's obligations under the Municipal Elections Act 1996, and furthermore that a bylaw to establish and appoint members of the Joint Election Compliance Audit Committee for the 2026-2030 term of office, November 15, 2026 to November 14, 2030 be approved.
Do a seconder. Mayor Gervais. Comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. That's the end of our business for combined committee. Could I entertain a motion to adjourn? Councillor Keel, moved by Councillor Frenier. Those in favor? We are adjourned.
Evening, everyone. Before calling this meeting to order for July 14th of council, I would ask those who wish and those who are able to please stand for an opening prayer reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. So we'll call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in relation to this open meeting portion of council? Seeing none. We have a number of different minutes to proceed through this afternoon. So the first is a regular meeting of council June 16, 2026, moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. Second set of minutes is a special council meeting July 7, 2026, moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. There's adoption of minutes from a variety of different committees. First is Planning and Development Committee, June 2nd, 2026. I have Councillor Keel, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is Finance and Administration Committee, same evening, June 2nd, moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. Moves us to Parks and Recreation Committee, March 17th, 2026. Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. Brings us to Operations Committee, June 16th, 2026. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. And last but not least, for adoption of minutes is the Striking Committee of March 3rd, 2026. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. We're receiving one set of minutes from local boards, and that is the Pembroke Public Library, May 21st, 2026. The Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. There are no delegations or staff committee reports or proclamations. It brings us to bylaws. So Deputy Mayor, you have 2026-44, adoption of use of corporate resources for election purposes.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Troy Purcell, that bylaw 2026-44, a bylaw to adopt the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy, be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Purcell that bylaw 2026-44, a bylaw to adopt the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor?
Your Worship, this is revised bylaw policy for anybody running in the October 26th municipal election, and it was discussed tonight at committee. Thank you.
Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, there are no motions. Under correspondence, there are two items this evening. The first is request to remove off-road vehicles from Algonquin Trail resolution from the Township of Laurentian Valley. It's in your packages. Just to give you some background, the Mayor of Laurentian Valley contacted me. He provided me with a copy of this correspondence. The correspondence, I think, is self-explanatory as to the position of the Township of Laurentian Valley. Effectively, what he is asking for, and he, as I understand it, has approached a number of different municipalities over and above, approaching myself, looking for support in respect to this piece of correspondence that has gone to the County of Renfrew. So as with other correspondence that comes to this council, we can simply receive it, we can have some discussion about it, we can ask staff to do different things. So I'm open to what council wants to indicate in respect to this particular correspondence. As I say, I think it's self-explanatory, but nonetheless, perhaps there's some questions or concerns. I can try and answer what what Mayor Bennett has indicated to me in terms of the concerns that may not necessarily be articulated in that letter, but I think the letter is fairly self-explanatory. Councillor Keel?
Is there a timeline for this? Because I think if we were to explore a motion, I think you're right that the letters are self-explanatory, but I think I'd like to hear from staff and get a fuller appreciation of what's going on, and then maybe that could be brought next month?
And certainly, Councillor Keel, I'm following what, as my son says, I'm picking up what you're laying down. So I understand what you're saying. I know that this letter went out in June, but I also appreciate that this council needs to have the correct information, all information, before it decides to do X, Y, or Z. So again, I'm in council's hands as to what you wish to do with it. Councillor Purcell.
Mayor, I would agree. I think it's important that we kind of get, if we get a report, I knew you were going to get me there, from staff in regards to any disruptions within the city of Pembroke along the Algonquin Trail. I've witnessed a few motorcycles along the trail speeding and really not obeying stop signs. And I know that's an issue. Also, the loud exhausts are becoming an issue as well. It's unfortunate that maybe just a few cause some issues for, in other individuals that are utilizing the trail. But I do think that it's important that we get any feedback from the E11 or any residents if they have any concerns in regards to noise, dust, associated with the use of the trail with motorcycles. Some of the motorcycles that I noticed aren't plated, so they're just off-road motorcycles. So that tells me they probably don't have a permit, unlike ATVs or side-by-sides where they're permitted, registered, licensed, and insured properly. So that's my concern, is that they don't have the proper insurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacquinot.
I'm just wondering if this falls under, like, who regulates this? Is it under the Motor Vehicles Act? And who enforces it? Does that exclude electric bicycles? I mean, how do we decide what is regulated and what isn't, and who does that?
And certainly information, I'm getting the gist of what council wants, but certainly information the clerk can, or staff in general, can bring forward. Deputy Mayor, and then I have Councillor Lafreniere.
So for the Laurentian Valley to bring this forward, very serious. They would have had to consider this a lot. I've heard similar concerns as you have, Councillor Purcell. So I look forward to the report and going forward on it. Thank you.
Lafreniere?
Oh, yeah, I support this. I just think, in the words of former Terry O'Neill, Councillor O'Neill, we can do it, but what about enforcement? Like he states in this letter that it's already difficult to try to enforce the noise and the dirt, and how do you catch them anyway? So you can say, yeah, the trail's off limits, but who's responsible and who's going to pay for people to enforce the trail? So that's an issue too. I know that residents along that way that have been bothered, and they're bothered in the winter too by snow machines, they report it, but the officers can't catch these people. They're long gone by the time anything happens. So, I mean, sure, we can say it's not going to be used, but how are we going to enforce it? Yeah.
Thank you. And then Councillor Purcell, last word on this one.
Yeah, certainly. I just wanted to respond to Councillor Lafreniere in regards to they have Protect 5 that actually patrols the trail, and also wardens that actually patrol the trail. And they're provided enforcement opportunities through the county. So there's a bylaw at the county that enforces speeding, alcohol, those kinds of things. So there is some regulations on the trail, and there is some enforcement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Does that bylaw and that apply within the city of Pembroke, though?
Yes, it's along the trail.
How can the county bylaw apply to the city of Pembroke? Can we also get information on?
Yeah, all different things. I think staff have the general direction as to what's going to transpire out of 11A. Okay, so that brings us to 11B, Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. It's a newsletter for council's information. So unless there's something stirring out of that, but anyways, it's just trying to bring information to council. That brings us to Mayor's report. So good evening, everyone. I'm just going to focus on two items this evening, and we'll be brief about it. July 10th, I attended our Investment Attraction Officer with our Investment Attraction Officer, Kathleen Barr, with announcements from Rural Ontario Development Funds grants together with the CAO and the clerk. The City of Pembroke was a recipient of one of the grants. You'll recall Ms. Barr came to Council in the fall of 2025 with an investment attraction strategy. This grant will assist Ms. Barr in implementation of a strategy to bring new businesses, entrepreneurs, and professionals to the community and to support growth and retention of those already here. Province of Ontario has invested more than $114,000 in the County of Renfrew, and the City of Pembroke received just north of $23,000. I just wanted to commend, she is in another room right now, but she is here this evening. I commend Ms. Barr for all of her efforts in securing this grant. The minister was most pleased with this grant application, and as I expressed to her, as I understand it, the minister views it as something that ought to be a template for other municipalities to follow, so kudos to her. Next item is on July 11th, I attended the grand reopening of Masqueezy Manitou Foundation at their new location, 595 Pembroke Street East. Please drop in, pay them a visit as part of a more inclusive community. And as I've stated, always we're better together and we have much to learn from one another. So keeping it brief, those are my mayor's comments for this evening. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, brings us to councillor updates. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have 2 items tonight, maybe 3. I want to thank the whole community, everyone who came out last Wednesday to Algonquin College for the Cultivating Community presentation by CBC Ontario Morning gardening expert Paul Zammit. We had a packed house. The mayor was there, and the CEO. And this was a presentation of the Pembroke Carrefour Community Garden as part of the $11,000 grant we got from the TD Friends of the Environment Foundation. And we had speakers. The mayor and I spoke on behalf of the garden. We had Algonquin College. We had the Carrefour. Sharon May spoke for Carrefour, who were very thankful for allowing us to have the land there. Renee LaChapelle from the St. Joseph's Food Bank. And we also had a member, the manager of the local TD Bank, speak. So it was a great night. And he gave a 45-minute presentation, PowerPoint, talking about community ideas, and the whole theme was get young children gardening. You know, food source for families, get people involved, and it was a celebration of Pembroke community gardening with the Horticulture Society there, and the Pembroke Carrefour Community Garden. So it was a great event. And we want to thank the college. We need to support the college as much as we can. It was part of the Brandberger Speaker Series. So thank you to everyone. The second item, on behalf of the Library Board, the Mayor, and committee member of the Multicultural Festival, Councillor Purcell, this Friday from 4 till 8 and Saturday from noon till 8, it's our annual Multicultural Festival. We want to thank the city as a partner, and we want to thank all the sponsors, all the volunteers, and the organizers. The library staff is working so hard under the leadership of Karthi Rajamani. They have a bang-up show. I saw the program today. And come on down to the Multicultural Festival and experience what Pembroke and multiculturalism has to offer. And the other thing I wanted to talk about briefly, Councillor Jagano will probably speak about it, but I went down to the timber mural last week and helped Jane Gilman and Pam Dempsey, chair of the mural committee, clean up the area in that. And the timber mural is up again. It's been renovated, revised, and there's a ceremony this Friday at 3 to unveil it and acknowledge. But I want to thank Councillor Jacquino and all the members of the Pembroke Heritage Mural Committee. I had the pleasure of sitting on that last term. And for those who don't know, they might not be aware, but one of the main reasons people come to Pembroke to visit is because of those murals. And Councillor Jacquino, just extend our thanks to the committee, the tireless effort that they do to have these beautiful murals. When we were there was a couple, a mother and daughter came from Toronto. They walked by and they wanted to know about the murals. We gave them a booklet, and they said, we're going to stay overnight and look at these murals. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Jacquino?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that recognition of the hardworking committee. The artist that did the work, Trish Legault, she is a retired veteran who fought in Afghanistan. I believe she suffered some injury, I'm not sure of that, but she's a local gal, grew up in the West End of Pembroke. Her mom still lives here, father's deceased, but it was a labor of love for her to paint that. And if you look at the mural as it exists today, it's so lifelike. The water splashing against the ramparts of the timber, the timber chute. It looks so real. So I'd like to thank her for her wonderful artistic work. She has had pieces on display, if I'm maybe incorrect, but at the War Museum in Ottawa, of a young woman with a large pack-sack rifle sitting on the ground, and she's atop a casket going uphill. And I think what it does, it recognizes the sacrifices that the Canadian military makes on our behalf. So it's quite a moving piece. If you ever get a chance to see it, you'll be moved by it. We thank her. Thank you.
Thank you. Other updates? Seeing none. I understand, Councillor Jacquino, you have a motion to move into a closed session.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 239, subsection 2-C of the Municipal Act regarding A, Trans-Canada Developer Request, and B, Trans-Canada Sale Agreement. Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Jacquino, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 2392C of the Municipal Act regarding Trans-Canada Developer Request and a Trans-Canada Sale Agreement. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.